Hey guys, it's Vandiazzo by your Craft Vanguard deck profiles, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm like, comment, subscribe, sorry. This time we're covering DZLM set 2, so the second Lyrical Monasterio booster in the DZ series, covering Prisms, specifically the Labrador deck. So I call them Prisms because they were the first deck that came out and they focus more on the Prism archetype than the Vert deck does. So that's why I call them Prisms, but technically it's based on Labrador, who, like every single Lyrical Monasterio encounter, focuses on bouncing rear guards and calling them back, this time with the addition of the Prism archetype. So let's get some and see what we got. First thing we have our energy generator is our ride deck crest. You may only have one ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card to your crest zone. If you have a second energy charge 3, continues to make attack energy, auto begin right face energy charge 3, then act once per turn, energy about 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get free 3 energy every turn. If you went second, you get an extra 3 on top of that. And once you have 7 or more energy, you can blast 7 to draw a card. This deck doesn't use a lot of energy, and because it was a deck that was actually made before the energy generator came out, pretty much none of its support cards really require energies. You can afford to use that energy blast 7 on the draw. Moving on to our starter, we have Coaxing Diva Meline, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto run power for second draw card, standard starter, nothing too special, but a free draw if you go second. You could make this any starter you want. You can make it any real ride line you want for this deck, because none of the ride line requires this starter. In fact, typically, whenever you use an encounter deck, you tend to use the encounter ride line for Bermuda Triangle as a whole, the one that goes Sedna and Aqua along with Shizuku. But I chose to make it Meline because it is the canonical starter to Labrador in the D series. And then we have our Overtrigger and Mysterious Twins, Romia and Rumia. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, and Overtrigger in your deck. Reveal it as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one to get a plus minimum for the turn. If revealed it during a draw check, activate the addition fight, which during this fight, you, the player, get during your turn. All of your rear guards get 10,000 power. Basically meaning once you stack this offensively, your 2 rear guard columns will be plus 20k in total, and your vanguard column will be plus 10k in total. And with a deck that already has access to multi-attack capabilities, that is a really good benefit to have. You can make this any Lyrical Monasterio overs because they all share the same effect as Romia and Rumia. You can make it Nyxphoria or Volna for more consistent multi-attacking, or Sphoria for crit pressure and recycling power as well. I chose to make it Romia and Rumia though because it is one of the most offensive over triggers out there, and once you do sack it, it has a long-lasting pressure on the game. Moving on to our normal triggers, we have 3 fronts and Snowskip Palavi. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, continuous guard circle. If your opponent fighting guards are grade 3 or greater, add 5,000 to her shield. She's a 20k shield, and she's a front trigger. She adds more numbers to your front row. Again, that's really nice to have in a multi-attack deck that also inherently has the ability to search their own cards. Coral. So I'm just saying, you don't technically need draw triggers in here. Moving on, we have a total of 8 crit, 4 being Fluffy Lady Godleaf, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Make this any vanilla crit you want, just to make a Godleaf because she's a mermaid. 4 Precious Tune Edwidge, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k power, auto rear guard, about she boosted, Shover to Soul, choose your name to K for the turn. So you don't technically need Edwidge. However, the deck does have a lot of Soul Blasters. One of your main grade 2s does cost Soul, and your main grade 3 also costs Soul. And while the deck does have a lot of Soul charges to mitigate the Soul Blasters, it is nice to have Edwidge just in case you do run into the scenario where you do need Soul charging. So 4 of Edwidge just in case, but if you feel comfortable running this as a vanilla crit, you very much can afford to. And then we have 4 heal and Diva of Artarixia, Georgina. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k base. Make this any heal you want. I chose to make it Georgina because just like Godleaf, she's a mermaid, therefore she fits the deck theme. Moving on to our grade 1, starting off with 4 copies of Chilling Tonight, Neo Barnia. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear guard. When you Prism this card is placed on another rear guard circle saying calm as her, she'll get 5,000. That place unit gets 5,000 power for the turn. Armor pretty solid because it allows you to give the unit that was placed 5k, which really helps out in a multi-attack deck. Also meaning you can save Neo Barnia's boost for maybe a later attack, or you can use it on the first attack, and that way when Labrador eventually bounces rear guards back to hand and recalls them, the recalled units gain extra powers. That way you don't have to worry about Neo Barnia's boost not being available. She's a very solid grade 1, and with the way this deck works, you can bounce and recall all of your Prism units all in one shot, so you can always feel free to give them 5k with her ability. So she's a very solid grade 1 to have in the deck, and it's a really good thing that her ability is free, making her a solid 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Quick Rip Remius, so grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, one of our new support cards from the second Lyrical Monasterio booster set in DZ. Auto and discard from your hand during your turn at any point. You may put her to your soul. This deck does have a few cards that can actually discard during the main phase, so being able to send her to soul is really helpful, and that can also work out during the ride phase as well. That way you can possibly mitigate your soul problems that way. And then continues rear guard circle or guard circle. If your vanguards are grade 3 or greater Prism, and your opponent's vanguards also at grade 3 or greater, she'll get 5,000 power and 5,000 shield, so she'll be a 13k 13k base and a 10k shield during both players' turns. Again, once both sides hit grade 3. She's a very solid grade 1 to have overall for defensive pressure, but at worst case scenario, she's a 13k that you can call to rearguard circle to bully down opponent's 13k vanguard. And you, again, can discard her at any point during your turn, during any of the game, to send her to soul to help increase your soul for all of your many soul blasters, making her a solid 4 for me. Then we have 4 copies of Prism Promise Lette, Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, all in place on rearguard circle from the hand or put on guard circle from the hand. If your vanguard has Labrador in the card name, she'll get 5,000 shield and 5,000 power till the turn. She'll be a 13k base and a 10k shield. So typically you don't want to have to call her to guard circle because of course that means you can't use her again because this deck doesn't have a way to recycle the Prism units from the drop zone. However, if your opponent does end up forcing you to play this on guard circle because if you don't, you die, at least she gets extra shield value. That way it makes it a little bit easier to survive your opponent's attack. And then auto return to your hand from the rearguard circle by any means. If you have a Vanguard of Labrador in the card name, you may soul charge 1. Then if you have not countercharged this turn, countercharge 1. So you do not have to soul charge to countercharge. The fact that this is a free, non-restrictive soul charge that isn't mandatory, so it doesn't deck you out, but also allows you to countercharge 2 regardless if you soul charge or not. And you can soul charge as much as you want in the same turn. You can only just countercharge 1. Is amazing. This card's a great grade 1. It gets you resources for such a cheap cost by simply being bounced by any card ability, and more often than not, it will be by Labrador. And she'll be a 13k base every single time she's placed. Combine that with our lovely Neo Bueno over here, she'll be an 18k base, and she'll be a 10k shield on guard circle. She's an awesome grade 1. This is how you do a solid support card. Easy 4 in the deck. Then we have 4 copies of Mermaid Idol Ellie, grade 1 boost 0 soul, 6k base. Continuous Sentinel, you may only have up to 4 Sentinels in deck and all when she's put on guard circle. Choose over units and it cannot be hit in the battle. And hand from her cards, which you come from me and discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it, but it means that this only one of cards in hand, place on guard circle. You don't have to discard, it's great because I mean super aggressive in the early game. Pretty much spam all your grade 1s, and then your opponent does eventually counterattack you. Throw down Ellie, give him the middle finger, you're good to go. All-around Ellie is a very solid PG to have in the deck. You can make this any of the Lyrical Monasterio PGs. None of the deck requires Ellie to be there. I choose to make it Ellie though because she was the encounter PG for Bermuda Triangle, and because all the encounters for Lyrical Monasterio are inherently going to be Bermuda Triangles, might as well run the encounter PG for the deck. Then we have our last grade 1 in the deck, one up in the right deck and then the main deck of Diva of Theonidi Marinette, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Okay, I really love her background, and I'm now realizing that because she came out in the time of the Halloween booster set that she has pumpkins in the background. I never noticed that before. Anyways, auto wrote upon by Diva of Greeting Gloom Rosalita. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. She's up to 1 card Prism in this card, and from them reveal put to hand and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, you may call her to rearguard circle. If you do, soul charge 1. So you either get to add your amazing grade 1, your really good grade 2, or your Persona Ride to your hand. And if you don't add something, so you whiff the top 7 search, you get a grade 1 to bully your opponent's Vanguard down with, and you get a soul charge to replace her. This is a great grade 1 in the ride deck. She either gets you a free hand card that is really useful to your overall game plan, or she gets you a rear guard to bully down the opponent, and she does it all for free, so solid 1 in the ride deck. Then we have our grade 2s, starting off with 3 copies of What Color Is Your Wish Valshblund, grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base, auto and discard from your hand during your ride phase, you soul blast 1 and bot deck her to draw, and then auto place on rear guard circle, if you Persona Road, the counter boss 1, choose your vanguards, and it gets continuous vanguard, all your forwards get 5,000 power for the turn. All pretty solid because when you ditch her for ride deck, you can bot deck her and soul blast to increase your hand cards. Again, can't run into a soul problem, that's why we have soul chargers such as her, and thankfully Lilith is really good at her job. And then once you do Persona Ride, being able to give your front row 5k just by CBing 1 is good. It does eat into the CB a little bit because we do have a handful of CB cards. Thankfully, one of them is optional after a certain point. Another one is optional as well, so that way the only cards that cost CB really is Valshblund and Labrador themselves. And then Lilith also gets you a free counter charge every single turn, so you don't really have to worry too much about Valshblund's CB skill. So very solid 3 for late game aggro and early game consistency. Then we have 4 copies of Diva of Waterheart Petronil, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto place on rear guard circle by counter bossing 1, check the top 7 for up to 1 Prism card from them, reveal per to hand and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, you may soul charge 2. So cool. For a simple CB, you get to add again any one of your Prism cards. It could be Lilith, it could be Celtic, or it could be Labrador, and add any of them to your hand, and then you can shuffle your deck. However, if you do whiff, you are allowed to soul charge 2, but thankfully it's a make clause, so if you're already doing good on soul, then you don't have to soul charge 2 if you're afraid of decking out or you're afraid of staying triggers. But if you feel like you need that double soul charge, then you can take it. And then auto rear guard, the battle she attacked anything. If your Vanguard has Labrador in the card name, bounce her back to your hand. It's not a mandatory bounce, so you can choose to keep her on the board if you want to, but it's really cool that option is there. That way you waste less resources on bouncing rearguards back to hand to combo with, Lyrical Monasterio / Bermuda Triangle gimmicks where you bounce rearguards, recall them to specifically open rearguard circles, and then use skills to extend with other open rearguard circles. So very solid grade 2 to have in the deck for both aggressive pressure, defensive pressure, and consistency for only 1 CB as an actual cost, so solid 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of our newest support card, Pile Up Memories Rokyata, grade 2 5k shield, 10k base, auto place on rearguard circle during the main phase, choose a grade 3 card prism in the card name for your red deck and may reveal it. If you reveal the card or your Vanguard's already a grade 3 grade Vanguard prism in the card name, CB1 to draw a card, so it's a way to increase the hand for simple CB, but again, after a certain point in the game, her ability is really optional, so you don't have to worry about that CB too much. And then change rearguard circle during your turn. If your Vanguard has prism in the card name, she'll get boost, so once you hit grade 3, she'll be a booster, but once your opponent's Vanguard's at grade 3 or greater, she'll also get 5,000 power as well, being a 15k booster. And the last important skill is auto rearguard. When your unit with prism in the card name is placed on the same column as her, you may stand her, and if you do at the end of the turn, put her to soul, and choose a rearguard prism in the card name, bounce it back to your hand. That's a pretty solid ability because that can proc whether the unit is placed either in the back row or the front row, which works really well with Labrador's superior call skill as well. On top of that, being able to use Celtic skill to recall prism units and basically initiate 5 attacks is really helpful with Virtuoso skill. So again, being able to have multi-attack whether she's in the back row or the front row is really good, and being able to send her to soul and then rebounce any of your prism units back to your hand is good because you can perform that with the Let's skill over here to countercharge and soul charge at the end of the turn, or just Celtic to regain your extra shield value and keep her in your hand for next turn, or even Labrador if you had to just call her just to bully down your opponent. Ryokta is all around a very solid grade 2 for the deck and is a very good 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Prism Promise Celtic, grade 2 5k shield, 10k base, auto place on rearguard circle from the hand or put on guard circle from the hand. If your Vanguard is Labrador, she gets 5,000 power, 5k shield, so literally the same skill as the Let over here, being a 15k base and a 10k shield. And then auto rearguard at the battle she attacked anything. If your Vanguard's a Labrador, regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, Soul Blast 1, bounce her to the hand, then choose up to one of your rearguards with Prism in the card name and bounce it to the hand as well. Best part is it can be the same copy of herself, so that way you can again open up 2 of your front rearguard circles to initiate multi-attacking with Labrador over here, but at the very same time you can also use it to again bounce back with Lead to get consistent soul charging / counter charging. You can use it to bounce back Labrador, that way to get back to your Sunrise if you had to call him just for early game rush. All around Celtic, very solid grade 2, and typically this is what you want to hit off your top 7 surge. Once you have both of these 2, you're really good to go, but again, you kind of want to try to hit Celtic a little bit sooner because she can initiate 5 attacks in one shot, so 4 of Celtic. Then we have our last grade 2 in the deck, one of them in the red deck, and the main deck of Diva of Greeting Gloom Rosalita, grade 2 5k shield, 10k base, auto roll upon by a unit with Labrador on the card. You have to 1 unit card prism this card from your hand, called rearguard circle if you call a draw card. Again, worst case scenario, you can call Labrador and then, be able to bounce back at the end of the turn with either a combination of Ryokta and Celtic, or just use her ability to bounce her back to hand. Either way, solid grade 2 to have in the red deck. It's a free call and draw, so 1 of. As for our last card in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of the red deck of our main grade 3, Prism Promise Labrador. Grade 3 to 13k base, act Vanguard once per turn, Soul Blast 1, choose over rear guards, and bounce it back to your hand. She'll get 5,000 power for the turn. So for a simple Soul Blast, she's an 18k, and you bounce the rear guard back to hand. So if you bounce back, the Let, you basically just give her 5k and deck thin by 1 card, technically. Or you can bounce back literally any one of your cards, maybe even Ryokta to get extra draw power, or maybe Petronil to check the top 7 again. Very solid all around that she can proc any Lyrical Monasterio skill that can proc on place, but also still get extra power of it as well. And then Auto Vanguard, when she attacks anything, by counter blasting 1, shift to 2 unit cards with Prism in their card names from your hand, call them to open rearguard circles, and if you call a draw card, and if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, until end of turn, all your farmers get 5,000 power, and she'll get +1 critical. So even if you go second on your first grade 3 turn, she'll be an 18k with double critical, possibly 23k with, the skill attached to it, going into your opponent's Vanguards. The best part is you only have to call 1 to get the draw. You don't have to call 2, as she can call the 2 Prism units to any open rearguard circle, so you can call them to the same column, you can call them to both front row open rearguard circles, however you want to go with it. The only downside to Labrador is that she doesn't inherently bounce unlike every other grade 3 for Bermuda Triangle, which is why it's very important to have access to Celtic for rearguard bouncing and Petronil for rearguard bouncing. But once you have access to both of them, you're pretty much good to go. So all around Labrador, very solid grade 3. She does allow you to initiate multi-attacking. The downside is she does require other cards to inherently let it happen, but she can initiate multi-attacking regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at. If they're at grade 3, you get a little bit extra offensive pressure as well, and her real skill comes to shine time when it comes to proccing on place abilities continuously with her Soul Blast 1. Alright, Labrador is a very solid grade 3 to have in the deck. I will still be baffled by why they made Vert its own deck, but is what it is. 3 of the main deck of Labrador, 1 of the rad deck. Without further ado, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoy. Honestly, this deck is really fun to play. It could definitely benefit from there being more Prism units as a whole, so I do genuinely question why they made like Vert its own separate deck, where they could have like at least had the Prism cards work decently in tandem together instead of half of them requiring Labrador and the other half requiring Vert, and then both being their own separate grade 3s. But either way, the deck does have actually a lot of consistent searching, which is something that Vert does lack in of herself. It has consistent bouncing, with the only downside is that Labrador herself cannot inherently start the multi-attack unless something has been done before. It has some of the best rear guard recirculation I've ever seen in my entire life, and the ride line is pretty solid, not even going to lie to you on that one. So without further ado, I'm going to spin here. I hope all of you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join Discord, follow Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.